President.
Senator from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Coons. Thank you for your leadership on this very important topic. And I could not agree with you more that we need to fund the IAEA. We need to confirm Adam Zubin to the position of Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence, and that our European allies must join us in sanctions against Mahan Air. The JCPOA is focused upon one clear goal: preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. The fact that an agreement like this was able to be achieved at the negotiating table is a testament to the strong economic sanctions that were imposed on Iran in direct response to Iran's past illicit nuclear activities. The JCPOA required Iran to complete key nuclear-related steps verified by the IAEA before any sanctions were removed. Iran has shipped out 25,000 pounds of low-enriched uranium, thereby tripling its breakout time. Iran has removed the core of its Arak heavy water plutonium reactor and has rendered it unusable. Iran is also limited to 300 kilograms of uranium enriched to only 3.67%, which is below weapons grade. These are positive steps towards preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. But they came at a time when the world community possessed the most leverage, and Iran had the most to lose by not complying with the deal. Now, in the aftermath of implementation day and with certain sanctions relief provided to Iran, we must remain increasingly vigilant in our efforts to counter the Iranian regime's support for terrorism and violations of human rights of their own people. The Iranian regime must understand that there will be consequences for violations, however minor, of the JCPOA. If Iran seeks a nuclear weapon, the world community, led by the United States, is ready to implement the snapback of sanctions in response. And if Iran attempts to test our resolve through small but persistent violations of the JCPOA, they need to be punished swiftly. I recently traveled to Vienna, along with Senator Coons and several of my colleagues, to meet directly with the U.S. mission to the international organization in Vienna, including the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. The IAEA is the world's nuclear watchdog, and the organization that, under the terms of the JCPOA, is responsible for verifying Iran's compliance with the terms of the deal. We must ensure that the IAEA, which serves as our eyes and ears on the ground in Iran with direct access and 24/7 online monitoring capabilities, has the resources necessary to execute its critical mission. It is incredibly important that we continue to ensure strict compliance with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The terms of the JCPOA do not change regardless of progress or setbacks in Iran's politics, and our resolve to vigorously enforce the deal will not waver. We will judge Iran's leadership by its actions and not words. Last week, Iran conducted some elections. But let's be clear. Many of the Iranian candidates being touted as so-called moderates are labeled that way simply because of their support for or connections to Iranian President Rouhani. But it is important to remember that according to the United Nations, and I quote, Iran continues to execute more individuals per capita than any other country in the world. Executions peaked at 753 in 2014 during President Rouhani's second year in office, including those conducted in public, along with executions of women and at least one juvenile. Amnesty International has reported on continued crackdowns against artists and activists who were tortured into confessions of crimes such as spreading propaganda against the system and insulting Islamic sanctities. And we know that Iran remains a leading state sponsor of terrorism. Unfortunately, I do not believe that the election results in Iran are in any way transformational. I agree with my colleague's assessment that Iran's elections are neither free nor fair, And the Guardian Council, a top clerical body of the Iranian regime, disqualified thousands of candidates from standing for election. We cannot reasonably expect a transformational shift in Iran's foreign policy, human rights record, or support for terrorism when the hardline regime elements that promote these disturbing policies are allowed to pre-screen and disqualify candidates for office. Iran's support for terrorism and the ability to foster instability in the region has serious consequences for our European allies and for our own homeland security. I served in the United States Navy Reserve, including time in the Persian Gulf, where I saw firsthand the Straits of Hormuz and the strategic choke point that exists there. Last year, Iran seized a commercial vessel in the Straits, requiring the United States Navy to accompany vessels and provide security when moving in and out of the Persian Gulf. The Iranian regime is a threat not just to the Middle East, but to the security and stability of the entire world. In closing, I want to reiterate the need to confirm highly qualified nominees like Alan Zubin, who will oversee Treasury Department sanctions against Iran and the front companies used to support illicit activities. And we need to urge our allies to join us in imposing these sanctions. We need to ensure that we provide the IAEA with the resources required to do its job and conduct rigorous daily oversight of the JCPOA. But most importantly, we must continue to provide strict oversight of the JCPOA and ensure compliance with its terms. We cannot let up or be distracted by perceived improvements or setbacks in Iran's politics. We made a commitment to the American people that Iran must never be allowed to acquire a nuclear weapon. This is a commitment we must uphold and be focused on each and every day. President, I suggest the absence of a quorum.
And the clerk should call the roll.